The origin of the universe. Light topic, right? We're going to discuss the origin of the universe, and we're going to look at it very logically here. When you think about it, we only have three options. There are only three options as to where the universe came from. Either A, it was created by nothing, B, it was created by something, or C, it has always existed. Those are the only three options. I remember having a discussion with a skeptic in the past, and he was always kind of poking at me. And I mentioned that there are only three options for the origin of the universe. And he said, no, there are millions of options. You can't be so dogmatic, there are only three. I said, no, there really are only three. No, there are millions of options. And I said, could you give me an example of one? He goes, well, there are millions of them. And I said, I don't really need millions of examples, just one example that wouldn't fall into one of those three categories. Couldn't think of one because there really are only three options. It was created by nothing, created by something, or it's always existed. That's not a religious statement. That's logic. So let's very quickly take a look at these options. Number one, the universe was created by nothing. Well, we should be able to rule that out right away, right? Because, nothing is nothing but nothing. That's why we call it nothing. It can't do anything, so it couldn't create an entire universe. We should be able to rule that out. Put a marker there. We'll be back briefly. Second option, the universe was created by something. Okay, it's pretty vague. What are our options for something? Well, there's only two sub-options for what this something was. One option would be that the universe created itself. The universe was created by the universe. Well, we should be able to rule that out too, because something cannot create itself. Okay? If it wasn't the universe itself, it must have been something outside of the universe, which would be outside of the natural world, which would be the supernatural world. Well, the alarms are going off like crazy right now because separation of church and state, you can't teach that in the school system. You could, that's the whole separation of church and state thing. It's not in the Constitution, a different topic. But they will rule that option out, not because it's not a possibility. They don't like that one. So the universe couldn't have been created by nothing, and now we've ruled out that it was created by something because it couldn't have created itself, and they don't want it to have been created by something outside of itself, the supernatural world. That leads us to the third option. The universe has always existed. Interesting topic. Many scientists used to believe that the universe was eternal. One of the reasons was, got them off the hook. They didn't have to explain who created the universe. It wasn't created, it's just always existed. But the more they looked at science, the more they realized that's not a possibility. The universe cannot be eternal for many reasons, one of which is the second law of thermodynamics, which states that when you have stuff, it goes downhill over time. It goes from having useful energy to having energy that is useless. If the universe was eternal, it would have run out of gas a long time ago. There'd be no order left in the universe, but we call it the cosmos, which means order, and there's a lot of energy all around us. So scientists have largely ruled out that it's eternal. It has not always existed. You may notice we have a problem. We only have three options. We just ruled each one of those out. Now what do? We got to pick one of them. Guess which one wins? The one I said put a marker at. The first one, that the universe was created by nothing. Now, it might sound crazy, but this is what we teach in all of our public schools and state universities. Now, you might be thinking, well, no, we don't teach that. It came from the Big Bang. When you push a scientist far enough, they will admit it came from nothing. First, they'll say, well, no, it didn't come from nothing. It came from the Big Bang. Then you ask them about this Big Bang. What was that? Well, there was this singularity, and then it expanded, and the Big Bang is the expansion of the singularity that formed our universe. Okay, that sounds interesting. What was this singularity? Where did that come from? Well, that came from the fluctuation in the quantum vacuum. Wow, that's fascinating. Tell me more about this quantum vacuum. Where did that come from? Well, many scientists believe that actually came from nothing. So they do truly believe that everything came from nothing. But you have to push them hard enough, otherwise they just get away with saying, well, the Big Bang created it. But they really are stuck with the idea that nothing created everything. Stephen Hawking, he was one of the world's leading theoretical physicists, probably the leading theoretical physicist, brilliant scientist. He was asked, how do you get something out of nothing? He was an atheist. He didn't believe that God created the universe. His response was this: because there is a law such as gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. All right, do you really want to debate the world's leading theoretical physicist? Probably not. Let's for 1 second forget about how brilliant he was and just think about what he said. I'm going to reword this slightly as we work through this. He said, because there's something, the universe can and will create itself out of nothing. Wait a minute. If there is something, you don't have nothing. And what was the something he mentioned? The law of gravity. Well, what is the law of gravity? It's not a physical thing that you can weigh and paint and bend. It's a description of how the universe operates. But you can't have a description of how the universe operates unless you have a universe to describe. But if you have a universe to describe, you're not creating it out of nothing. It already exists. So here's an example of a statement from a truly brilliant scientist that doesn't make any sense. Even other atheists called him out on it. It doesn't make any sense. He's contradicting himself. Then we have Lawrence Krauss. He's one of the leading theoretical physicists today, another brilliant scientist. This was interesting when they asked him about how do you get a universe out of nothing? And he said, when people think of nothing, they typically think of the absence of everything, which, yeah, that makes sense to me. He said, but that's a philosophical definition of nothing. He goes, I don't care what the philosophers believe. I care about the nothing of reality. And if the nothing of reality is filled with stuff, I'll go with that. There's a kind of a crazy statement made by a very brilliant scientist. So what he conveniently does is he says, yes, the universe was created from nothing, but nothing isn't nothing. Nothing is actually something. So they just redefine nothing into being something. That's not science. That's not how science works. But you're desperate when you're trying to explain the origin of life in the universe apart from design, apart from purpose, apart from cause, apart from the supernatural. So just an interesting thing to think through. I think the only thing that makes sense is the universe was created by something. Logically, that makes sense that something could actually create something. Nothing can't. We've never seen nothing create anything. And it's illogical that nothing could do something, and it goes against the known laws of science. The concept that something created everything makes sense. It's consistent with the known laws of science, and that's what the Bible's been saying all along. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Just something to think about. For more information, contact us at thestartingpointproject.com.